I want to thank everyone for coming and attending and practicing together. Good to do that. Sangha community, spiritual community is very important. Very important to have a teacher, very important to have a teaching, and extremely important to have a community. Quite often that's not emphasized enough in the way that I feel it should be. And I'm happy to respond to questions around that, or perhaps I'll even give a talk on that at some point. This morning's talk is titled Don't Wallow in Self-Pity. I think this is Slogan 52 from Atisha's 7 Points of Mind Training, published back hundreds of years ago. And it's I think 59 slogans, various teachings in both in absolute bodhicitta, or the mind of awakening in the absolute sense, relative bodhicitta, or just kind of practical, pragmatic information on how to work with the path to awakening in the Mahayana. So don't, as you've probably heard me say before, I don't necessarily teach all of these slogans. There's 59 of them. So there's some of them I think are very, very good. And other ones I think are coming out of a medieval time. And they're more about kind of controlling yourself or controlling people. And of course, I emphasize being aware of what's happening in your mind rather than trying to modify it or change it. That doesn't mean you can't do that, but I think it's so very situational that how you do that or how you do that or how anyone here does that is going to be different. So following any kind of a standard of, well, this is the way you do that. That's after looking at all this for half a century more. I think it's good to just for each person to work with it themselves. As it says in one of the slogans, of the two, keep the principal witness. Of the two, you, this person, and anyone else, you look at it. This doesn't mean you should believe your thoughts, but your intelligence, your awareness of, you know yourself, you've known yourself your whole life, more than anyone. You may also have a lot of presumptions, a lot of self-centeredness or whatever that is very protective. But if you're on the path, if you're practicing awareness, if you're relating to the teacher, the teaching in the community, the three jewels, then you're in a better position, to use that term, to actually begin to get some kind of objectivity about who you are and what you're doing. So it might be good to just keep the principal witness rather than go along with other people. Don't get your identity from anybody. Don't even get it from yourself, but that might be an area that you could go to. If you need a reference point, you do it here, not out there. So with that slogan, number 52, don't wallow in self-pity, I would say, be aware, if that's happening with you, then be aware of that rather than have some attitude of just trying to stop. I have an understanding of this that may be very similar to what any other teacher is saying. But my way of, but where I emphasize this is to be aware of the negativity rather than go in and try to tussle with it and create more warfare. Because if you try to fight with something or push something or adjust something or rearrange something that you haven't even looked at carefully, then you just create more elaborations, more circularity, and more dizziness in the mind stream. So try to look at it very closely. This is what the sitting practice of awareness, shikantaza, is about. This is what it does. Sit down, hold still, sit symmetrical, very simple instruction, and just sit there for long periods of time and observe how the mind goes this way, goes that way, comes back, maybe slows way down where not much is happening, and then it speeds up for no particular cause. The causes and conditions that create any kind of dynamic in our life, in our mind, are untraceable. You cannot find the first cause to anything because of the truth of dependent origination, or pratitya samutpada. again, as I always say, you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but I think it's good to remind people, don't believe anything I say. I'm not here to convince you of anything. Of the two, keep the principal witness. You could consider what I'm saying. You could consider what your mother told you when you were 13. You don't have to believe that. You can just consider that. I remember considering things that my stepfather told me that seemed to be confusing even at the time. So I wanted to say, the Atisha, and I highly recommend that you read this book. This is an old copy of it. I like it. I don't know if they still have this little tiny copy of Training the Mind. And this is a translation. I'm not sure that the translator is probably a Vajra Vairochana translation committee. I won't look for that, but I will say this is a Training the Mind and Cultivating a Loving Kindness. You can still get this. It just won't look like this. It's a larger book, not a pocket book. And Cultivating Loving Kindness. And it has the 59 slogans, and then it has his commentary or explanation of those. And so his way of talking about not wallowing in self-pity is very good, very interesting. And if I were to use that, which I'm using that as a topic right now, I would say that it's about observing. It's about observing that you're doing the indulging and feeling sorry for yourself. It's about observing that rather than trying to, because what happens in the mind stream is if we do listen to that slogan, hear that slogan, or try to apply that slogan, we might try to just stop doing that. And you might have, if you have a little bit of success and just not doing that, it's not that that's not valuable, but the fundamental understanding is not separate. In order to really see what that is, the actual belief in a self that is even wallowing has to be seen. So you might have to look at the wallowing for a while to see that the ego mind is getting some kind of fuel or sustenance or nutrition from just feeling sorry for yourself. As I think it was Crystal in her book, I'm going to show you that book. I haven't read parts of it, but not the entire book. And Unya's read the entire book. And this is her kind of interpretation of Atisha 7 Points of Mind Training. It's called Radiating Outward Incrementally. And it is by Crystal Gondrud and Nuala Clark, two very good friends of mine. And Crystal, some of you may have heard her. She was actually teaching for a while here and there on under Susan Piver's, but back during COVID, she did some teaching during that time. At the same time, I was invited to do that. And then Nuala Clark is just an incredible artist and has beautiful pieces in here. I don't know if there's one that I can show you that will show up on the computer screen. So they're not paying me to do this. They don't even know I'm doing this. So that's really wonderful book. And some of her commentary, she's quite sarcastic and humorous. And those of you who know her, have met her, she will let you have it. What did she say after she says, of course, we have been wronged.
Yeah, at the end of number 52.
Which is wallow in self-pity, and she talks a little bit about that.
Or 56, it's number 56, actually. At least that's what I had to know. She says, but the last line, well, I have, after all, been wronged.
Yeah, so that's gives you a taste of that. See, these are very beautiful. One of Nuala Clark's. Very simple, but extremely direct. I've been looking at her art production for many years, and she lives in Ireland. So anyway, I recommend the book. Unyo has read the entire book and raves about it, and actually has sent letters to both Nuala and Crystal. So to give you a different, especially if you've read Training the Mind, you've studied some of this. Her angle on this is just completely unique and individual and extremely subjective. So she's looking at it and telling you how that looks to her. So I I won't, won't do anything other than recommend the book.
It's
Haven't read
available
it.
on, it's
Huh?
available on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. You can buy that there. And anyway, it's very, very, and the whole book is just it's like a piece of artwork. It's just very, very well put together and Crystal is very fussy about how things look, and probably Noah's even more fussy about how things look being a visual artist. So radiating incrementally. So thank you, Noah. Thank you, Crystal. So back to the slogan. Awareness, awareness, awareness. I love the slogans. They're great. Some of them are extremely complicated and conceptual. And some people need that kind of a practice. If you need a slogan, like I don't remember the number of it, but I was just thinking about giving a talk on this at some point, is seeing, how does that go? Seeing the help me.
Four Kayas.
Huh?
The four Kayas.
Thank you. So seeing the four Kayas, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, Swabhavikakaya, as seeing those as what? I just quoted it this morning.
Yeah.
Can you
It
remember?
has to do with shunyata.
Huh?
Has to do with shunyata.
Yes, seeing the four Kayas as
Supreme.
huh?
Something about supreme.
Yes, seeing the four Kayas as, I might have to read it.
Supreme Shunyata protection?
Uh,
The Supreme Shunyata.
It's a supreme
protection.
shunyata protection, but I can't remember the word in between there, so I'll probably have to look it up.
Seeing confusion as the.
Seeing confusion as the four Kayas. Did you just say that? Yeah, seeing confusion. I got the cart ahead of the goat. Seeing the confusion, your confusion or your wallowing in self-pity, that's a confusing area because after all, you have been wronged. So seeing confusion as the four Kayas is the supreme shunyata protection. What does this mean? What does this say? This is saying that if you, this is one that where you can use your intellectual acumen, your perception, and your ability to work with Dharmakaya, absolute truth, Sambhogakaya, the body of bliss, Nirmanakaya, the physical form of the Buddha, and Swabhavikakaya, or the coming together of all three of those Kayas. If you can see that, then this is a supreme shunyata protection, which means that this helps you see that everything is empty of anything, of everything. It's just empty. That doesn't mean it's not there. It's empty. So you may be able to use those concepts. You may have to go in and study those concepts. I quote that one because that's a very conceptual structure, teaching or slogan of the 59 slogans. And then there's others that are very simple. Don't wallow in self-pity. Another one is the two, keep the principal witness. Another one is don't act with a twist. So another one is don't wait in ambush. That one that is maybe it was Nuala that said that in the book. Says she has a lot of bombs stored, and she waits till you do something wrong. Is that how it went? No, wait till you accuse her of doing something wrong, and then she has all these bombs. Are like, well, yeah, but what about when you did this, and that, all sorts. So don't wait in ambush. To some people, that applies to you probably every day, and to some people that might just never work. You might never really look to retaliate against someone or show them where they're just as bad as you are. So that being said, stop wallowing, stop pity. So this doesn't mean that you shouldn't look at the feeling that the self-pity is covering up, because that's the area that the ego is getting paranoid or afraid. This is why I emphasize awareness so much, because if you just stop wallowing in self-pity, this is actually what Trungpa Rinpoche refers to in his book, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, improving No, I no longer wallow in self-pity. I'm getting better. So, oh, you might have to do some wallowing in self-pity, but do it with awareness. Do it so that your fundamental intention is to see the truth. This is why I emphasize intention so much. Intention should be in front of everything, in front of every slogan, in front of every teaching. It should be the intention to see the truth yourself, not to believe this truth or that truth, or don't even believe what the Buddha said, but consider it. Don't believe what Trungpa said. Don't believe what Nuala said or Crystal said, but it may help you to move in a way that gets you in front of what this actually is, which you are ultimately not separate from. I teach out of what I look at, what I see. I also am helped a great deal by everything I've been taught. But when I say don't teach out of what I've been taught, yeah, I do. But the fundamental understanding is it comes from the confidence you get by seeing the truth yourself. You could actually see this. You can see that there's no way you could ever say the truth or say a lie. That's a relative structure that the world is using to beat itself up with and to control other people. Look at the political structure we have going on now. It's absolute insanity. We want to return to the Third Reich or something similar to it. As people, we went to a retreat up in Grand Rapids, and all the way up there, there's 3 or 4 yard signs that say Harris Walls. But there's just countless signs that say that other fellow. It's just all over the place. It's hard to believe that people are doing that. And the thing that Ondo was pointing out is what did you say? Something about all the houses that have no signs at all. All we can do is hope that things don't go awry and we end up with a dictatorship in this country. But it could happen because things go back and forth and back and forth. Go back to the Peloponnesian Wars 2,500 years ago during the time of the Buddha, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it's very easily could happen because we are fighting with relative truth. There's very little actual realization of who you are, what this is, and what is actually real. Well, find out yourself. Otherwise, you're just adding, maybe not so much as some people are, but you're just adding to the confusion by not seeing what? That you're not separate from it. If you think there's something to fix, which is what most of the conversation is happening out there, then it just goes in a circle. It wouldn't go in a circle if there was a strong separate being everywhere where you actually could do something, but you can't because you're not separate from dependent origination, from pratitya samutpada. There are no individual things anywhere. This is what is an illusion. It's an astonishing realization that is not about thinking. It's not about knowing something. I know this is a book. Of course I do. I can prove it. It's a book, has pages. The book, relative truth. Most people are living their life out of this and that, existence, non-existence, truth and lies. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to be caught up in that craziness of your mind telling you, reinforced by your emotions and your feelings. You don't have to wallow in that crap. You could actually see this yourself and liberate yourself. When I say yourself, I'm saying the consciousness that is aligned with this particular body in this particular century. If you've been around here forever, who you actually are has never left and therefore can't appear. What appears? Bodies, minds, ideas, countries, dictatorships, democracies, coming, going, coming, ships, planes, ducks, porpoises, or they call porpoise. Coming and going, all illusion. Not the wispy kind, but the solid, concrete kind of illusion, the one that you cannot deny, because the whole idea of denial is relative. Am I getting my dander up here? So these slogans can be helpful. I have considered, haven't decided yet, but we're going to have Denko. I usually don't decide much. And if I do it at the last minute, second. So we might be studying the slogans, 7 or 8 of those slogans during Denko. And we may do something entirely different. Can't really do the whole book. It'd be too much for that short of a retreat. Denko starts October 1st. Please join us for that if you can. Join us in person. We're not very far away from you. Michigan's not very far away from anybody. Is it?
For Derek Birch, I think it might be a little bit of a stretch.
Derek, how far are we away from you?
About 12 hours, I think, last time I tried.
Yeah, but that's what kind of transportation are you using?
Airplane. Boat, rowing boats.
What?
I came by airplane.
Okay. Well, a jet?
Yeah, I think.
We'll get a jet. Come over here. You can do it. Same goes for everybody. You should just come here. We'll find a place for you to stay somewhere, won't we?
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Sleep in the Zendo. So are there kind of gone in circles a little bit here, but there are questions in the midst of the circle. You have something?
Yoka bowing. I wallow in self-pity, or I can see myself doing that a lot, and then I fill it with passion. Do I need to do anything?
So you
with
fill it with passion. What do you mean by you fill it with passion?
Yoka bowing? I find something I like, entertainment, a person, somebody that will shift me away.
Okay,
from
so you
the
ignore it,
self-pity.
you distract yourself.
Yes.
Okay, but you're aware of that enough that you can tell me about it. So I don't see anything wrong with anything to fix or correct, or when he is saying here, don't wallow in self-pity, it doesn't sound like you're wallowing in it, but it also doesn't sound like you're ignoring it. It sounds like to me, sounds like I'm just gonna do something else. I'm not gonna wallow in self-pity.
Yoka bowing. Do I need to turn to that situation of self-pity?
No, you don't need to turn back into it and wallow in it. Because it could be wallowing in it, could be just, hanging around in there and, wandering around in that syrupy kind of thing. It's interesting that word wallow. I mean, how many other, do we ever wallow in self-admiration? That word doesn't fit certain things. I'm wallowing in my aggression. Not really. But wallow is very much like something about the sound of the word wallow. Self-pity. Of course, I have been wrong, like Crystal said. Was it Crystal? Yes. So I would say you're just aware of it. And you don't have to have an agenda about it. Well, it has to go away. But it sounds like you're relating to it fine. The way you're talking about it, it's going to come up, but it doesn't have to go away. It's just awareness. More?
No, thank you.
Yes, oh no.
Onda bowing, is there a way to work with it that helps us see the ego? It's
I was gonna say that, is there a way, or if you were say, how do I work with that? I think he's doing that in the way that he needs to do that. The way someone else might need to do with that would be different. The way like Crystal is working with that. If we were to talk to her about it, she probably has some way of working with that. She's she's wrote a book. So, and she also is a meditator. So I think it would be so uniquely individual for each person, rather than come up with some kind of a standard. The thing that I always say, that the standard thing I say about everything is sit a lot, do a lot of sitting. So that which is perceiving self-pity, that which is receiving or perceiving, or is working with it by some kind of distraction that you're very aware of. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go and do dishes, or I'm going to talk to my friends or something like that so that I don't sit around and feel sorry for myself. It's always it's never stand around and feel sorry for yourself. It's always sit around, feel sorry for yourself. Something about the whole characterization, the whole scenario. It's just easy to return to that. Nobody likes me, and I'm whatever may be not popular. I'm not appreciated. I do all this hard work. Like Yoka does all this hard work and nobody appreciates it, right? You ever think about not being appreciated here at the monastery?
No, I
you're
feel
not.
like
We don't appreciate
at
you.
least recently that I can think of, I've been appreciated.
Yeah. You haven't been?
I have.
You haven't, okay. Do you think, are you appreciating Yoka?
Yes.
Okay. Well, told me this morning how much she appreciates you. So, sorry. Yeah, Wallow. So it's also this is why Sangha is so important, so that we don't buy into each other's lies about ourselves, but we actually are supportive of each other and appreciate other people. It's difficult area to work with, especially if you run into somebody, and I'm sure you haven't had this happen, but it really doesn't need your appreciation because they're such assholes. You run into those people?
Yeah.
And a lot of them are Sangha people. So very, very important area to look in. Coming back to your question, I would say it's individual. You have another one?
Yes.
What is it?
What is skillful means? Bowing.
Skillful means, or upaya comes out of wisdom. And it is knowing what to do and what not to do. And so I say the way to learn skillful means is don't do anything unless you have to. And that way, whatever would normally, when I say normally, say before you really had a strong practice going, you would just jump on something, push on something, aggression, or you blame, or you jump on this or that based on belief in relative truth, belief in your thoughts, belief in your emotions. But through the sitting practice of meditation, awareness practice, through the study of the Buddha's Dharma, 2,500 years of this teaching, you might hold back a little bit, sometimes called renunciation. I like to keep it simple. Don't do anything unless you have to. If you look at it, there's not a whole lot you really have to do, either out in the world, across the kitchen table, or in your mind stream. You don't really have to dwell on whatever, on another slogan there. Dwell on past mistakes. I don't know what number that is, but that's one of them. It's just, they're there, you stumbled in a particular place, or you did something that was unskillful, but you don't dwell on it. If you dwell on that fuels ego. Ego gets nutrition from negative stuff and positive stuff. It just needs reference points because it operates out of the belief in what? Duality. In right and wrong, up and down, back and forth. And the big duality, of course, is life and death, which is unreal. There is no death. But
Bowing. So if we find self-pity showing up, how do we don't do anything unless we have to, but yet do something skillful with it? Will we stay with it until we need to distract ourselves?
I wouldn't maintain anything. The only thing to maintain, and even that, I give anyone who is a student of mine, I give someone a lot of room to move, to not maintain some kind of sitting practice of meditation. Don't maintain that. Hold still. That's not so much of a maintenance. But then if you need to get up and move around, get up and move around. The same thing with something in that area. To not go in and be too come in with one of the three poisons, especially aggression, and just be aggressive about controlling yourself, so you're not wallowing in self-pity or something. So to be appreciative of that, it's kind of like working with a child. Part of our consciousness is very childlike and innocent. More.
When you're bowing along those lines, can we cultivate skillful means?
I would say a little bit. There's a little bit of cultivation going on there, But the area there that can't really be cultivated is the area that where there's no credential that comes in that says you're becoming more skillful. You could have some kind of an understanding or perception that you're creating less problems for others, that you're not meddling with other people as much. You're actually, I don't know if you could use the word appreciating a little bit, but you could appreciate somebody's negativity. You can notice how they're having difficulty with things, and you wouldn't necessarily jump into that and start giving them advice and so on. So more.
And just it's sort of like humility. Is humility something we can self-identify, or skillful means would that some action, it seems, arises and then someone else would have to, I guess, credential it would be. So it's just curious to me how
Say more.
Well, as I see you as our teacher, you say you don't think much, you don't, whatever arises at the time is what shows up without, it's kind of like with Miller Repo when he was told to go build more houses. And
So I'm still having emotions and feelings and come and go here all the time in this consciousness. But I don't particularly believe them. So I still have prejudice. I was talking to a person yesterday about that in a private interview, about still having, prejudice. And you don't have to get rid of that. If you try to get rid of it, then you create a hideout for it. You just have to be aware of it. So therefore, it shows up as you don't necessarily believe your thoughts and emotions and feelings about anything, nor do you disbelieve them. Nor do you what? Ignore them. The three poisons can't find you because there's no solid being anymore. It's not a credential. It won't show up if you, as I sometimes say, and I'll say today, if you actually attain the realization that is being pointed at by the 2,500-year tradition that has been described as anuttara samyak sambodhi, complete unexcelled enlightenment. You won't know it because the very nature of enlightenment is that there's no singularity called a person or self. You can't possibly know that you're enlightened. You can't. The whole idea of enlightenment, not enlightened, are polarities that you are no longer chained by. There are no longer any walls of the mind. Therefore, everything is headed your way. If there is a you, and there isn't, but there's a consciousness that is established around a particular living form, and coffee delivered.
is that a new cup?
What?
A new cup? What does it say?
This one says Inui Ensemble. And it's Psi. He's got Psi and Ugh. And these guys over here, Meh, M-E-H, Meh. And this one is Blah. Inui Ensemble. Who gave me this?
Is it ennui?
Yeah.
Huh? Who?
It's
Who?
Your pronunciation is being corrected.
we're correcting the teacher.
What's being corrected?
ENNUI.
It's not Ennui.
Well,
It's
French.
Ennui.
Oh,
It's ennui.
Ennui.
It's not
are you French?
ennui,
No, but I have,
but you have.
yeah, it's just that feeling of like malaise and like.
Oh, that's
yeah.
pronounced Malaise.
That's exactly. My malaise.
My life. My life. I don't. What do you think, Robert? You thinking about something else other than what's happening here?
I'm gonna go with what's happening here.
I think that would be good. I highly recommend it. Who gave me this?
Which of your students would know
Who?
about self-pity?
What? Can't hear very well.
I said, which of your students do you think would know most about wallowing in self-pity?
You? You giving me this?
Yes.
Was it Running Mountain?
No,
Oh,
It was
I,
liquid lake, no, liquid cloud. Why don't you stop doing that?
I had a question about that actually.
He's not gonna answer he's gonna ask me. Okay, enough of this lacking in humor. Go ahead.
Mozuku bowing.
Yes,
If we find a dynamic that shows up that we can't seem to break out of, is that telling us something about the structure of our ego?
what?
Is there something special about something?
What, no,
can't
say more.
change? Well,
What?
I sometimes wallow in self-pity and you've suggested I lighten up and I literally can't. So
Yeah, but that's just showing you can. I'm not suggesting you lighten up. Lighten up. It's the polarization of it. That's the hard part of the teaching. That's why it's so necessary to have the teacher, because the teacher, he, she, or they are not trapped by the shit that you guys are trapped by. It's not some bragging point. Woo, I'm free of everything and I'm free as a bird and no, I am trapped. If you're trapped by it, I'm trapped by it. I couldn't teach if I weren't trapped by the same shit you're dealing with. I don't know how to say it more bluntly. What's the difference? The difference is I don't care. I can't care about it because I see that nothing is separate from anything else. So any emotion that comes up here, any emotion that comes up there are not two different things, nor are they the same. This is what's being pointed at with profound skill and acumen by Vasubandhu. Read that text at 30 verses, read it over and over and over, read every translation you can get, study it with other Sangha members, because that is conceptually a way of talking about this so that it will trap your intellect in understanding in such a way that you have no alternative but to go to the consciousness only so you see it for yourself. You need to see it yourself. And if you see it, the concepts may be there. You may use them as a teacher. You may go refer to the concept, but you're not trapped by the concepts. So when I say to do that, I know you can't do it. I can't do it. There is no I. And if there is one, it's just unreal. And if it gets any sustenance or support, it gets it from attachment to this or rejection of this, some kind of reference point. The teaching person only reference point that he or she or they have is the student. If there's no student, there's no teacher. Chisho.
Shishwaweng. Billy is joining us for the first time and he has a question. Bye.
Go ahead, Billy.
Hi, my name is Billy. I am new to everything. I just found you guys today, and today's my grandma's birthday. She passed a couple years ago, and I woke up this morning and I went onto YouTube and started watching some videos, and a video popped up about I think it was Kriya Yoga, and led me somehow to here, and I started watching you guys. And so, first of all, thank you for having me. I just really want to learn. My question, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
My question, one thing I suffer with is that, so I do have a mental disorder called obsessive compulsive disorder with intrusive thoughts, where my mind kind of races all day and night long with thoughts I don't want to think about. And I wondered if you had any advice that you could help me with not believing those thoughts. They're always negative thoughts that are against what a person would actually want. And is there any advice that you have or a path that you could lead me to do maybe some more research into, is how to not pay attention to those thoughts and not give them that credibility in order to quiet the mind?
You ready?
I'm ready.
First of all, a question for you. Do you do any kind of sitting meditation?
I have not yet. I have not done any meditation.
Okay, then, since you're asking me, I would say start doing sitting meditation. Sit down, hold still, face a wall or face a closet door, face something where nothing is happening or nothing. It can be the trunk of a tree. Sit down, sit symmetrical. You can sit with your hands on your knees or in the cosmic mudra, left over right with the thumb slightly touching. That's a very symmetrical, very deliberate symmetrical situation. We can't find the mind, but we can find the body. And so we're going to hold up this particular symmetry without maintaining it. So this doesn't mean that you don't return to it. Sit down, hold still, and watch the movement of the mind. Watch the very area of the mind that is discursive thoughts and ragged thoughts and unacceptable thoughts and just basically bullshit in the mind. It comes and goes and comes and goes. You have to actually do, it's not exactly this, but the closest I can get to it based on what I'm hearing from you is you're going to need to wear some of that out because what you're doing is you're promoting it by pushing on it. You're promoting it by explaining it or grasping at it or struggling with it. And you're promoting it by trying to turn away from it or ignore it. And I'm saying, don't do any of that. You can't do that. You can't not do any of that with the mind. You have to actually do it with the body. The body is very, very intelligent. Otherwise you couldn't digest food. You couldn't take your hand away from a burning stove. Body is very intelligent. So body and mind are not two different things, nor are they the same. I'll say it again. The body and mind are not two different things, nor are they the same. It's that kind of a dilemma that the ego mind makes use of and tries to grasp this and reject that. So this is what you're caught, and I can tell just by the way you express yourself that you're intelligent, very intelligent, and it's not a compliment. But that intelligence is being used to further the confusion because you have not been you have not learned or been had a teacher that can tell you how to fundamentally do this at a fundamental level. You're still up in the thought process, trying to fix it, trying to do something with it, trying to change it, trying to cover it up, trying to blame or trying to whatever you may be doing, going in circles. And I'm saying, sit down, hold still, look at something that's not moving, keep your eyes open, don't close them. If they close, then open them back up. You don't even have to maintain having them open, but you have to find some way to cut through the speediness. The only way we can do that is with the body. The mind, don't worry about the mind other than just pay attention. Watch what moves in the mind. Watch the thoughts come and go. Don't try to stop your thinking. Don't explain your thinking. If you can, don't go to war with anything. And the process of not going to war with anything in the mind may involve watching a lot of warfare, but you can do it. Do it with, here's the key word, do it with the awareness, not with the thought process. But that doesn't mean shut out the thought process. That just means emphasize the awareness over the razzmatazz that's going on in the thought process. It's like emphasizing the sky and not the clouds. You don't get rid of the clouds. You won't know about the sky unless there are clouds, but you don't necessarily grasp at the thoughts or the emotions or the feelings or the clouds of the mind. You just slowly over time, it takes a while to begin to identify with the sky itself, in which nothing is happening. So you cannot fix the mind. There is no such thing as a mind. This is unreal. If you think there is, then you'll continue to try to improve or try to get better or try not to feel bad. So you'll be fine. If you value what is being said here, continue to return to this teacher, return to this teaching, return to this community. And that's what these people are all doing here because they find some support here, all in a different way, all with a different intensity, all with a different kind of connection. That's what I recommend to you, Billy. Where do you live, Billy?
Thank you. I'm in Athens, a little bit down from Battle Creek.
Well, you're not far away. You should come up here. Yeah, you're only 15 miles away from here. And while you're on your way, stop and get some ice cream. There's a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah, Station 66 has very good ice cream.
Yeah, I've actually I took my boy. I have a little 8-year-old boy, and we went there a few weeks ago. Great ice cream.
Yeah, we have a 6-year-old boy, don't we?
Soon to be.
Huh?
He's 5 right now.
He'll be 6 in November, though. Yeah, so you should bring your son too.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is having the awareness that the thoughts are there, but not engaging with them. not,
You can engage. Think about it. It's just that holding the body still. Actually, the body mind are not two different things. And when the body is moving, even the slightest bit, even a little bit of movement, interrupts the awareness aspect of the consciousness. So it is more difficult to see that thoughts and concepts and ideas are just items in consciousness. They are not the consciousness. They're just the way the consciousness tightens up into a fist or relaxes into an open plane or lake or field. So it's tightening up and it's opening up, but the space in which it is doing that is consciousness only. So you need to see that. And when I say you need to see that, don't believe what I say, because you could consider what I'm saying. And the particular dynamic you describe as everyone's going through their version of that. It's called suffering. This is just a way.
okay, so holding the body completely symmetrical and still,
Yes.
eyes open and observing.
Yes, you got it. And
Thank you so much.
Yes, and don't look for results. Don't go away from what that instruction is to see, is it working? It will never feel like it's working. If it does, you're probably going in another circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes, Biyun.
Biyun bowing. You mentioned the emotion behind the self-pity.
Yes.
What does looking into that emotion behind something, self-pity or anything else, stand to show us about our true nature?
Okay, very good. So that you're getting closer to the very area in which the otherness or the belief in something else is generated. The self-pity is actually covering up the primary disturbance of the three poisons. So you're actually going into a self that has been harmed or has been wronged. Whereas when you go into the emotions being covered up, the personhood of someone who's wronged you or the personhood of someone who has been wronged starts to become transparent, and you just see the emotion itself. The emotion itself is dependently arisen. It has no source. It has no direct cause. It is not separate from anything that has ever occurred as a thing, occurrence, or has any kind of a status as a thing anywhere. It's just another thing. It's just that we personalize it. So what you're doing is you're slowly, through your sitting practice of meditation, which you've been doing for years, you're slowly depersonalizing that without really fiddling with it at all. You're just doing it with the awareness, because the awareness it's just like the awareness is sinking past the personhood part where the wallowing is at, and you're going into the actual substructure of it, the more primary area, closer to consciousness itself, and cutting through the area that is involved in passion or the three poisons: passion, aggression, ignorance. You're going into the actual depersonalized paratantra. There's a fancy word for it, paratantra. You're actually starting to experience paratantra in the emotional structure. So there's still something occurring somewhat, except it's less personal. Is that helpful?
Oh yeah, very much. Thank you. If we're speaking of layers here and we're looking, is there a layer behind the emotion that's even less personalized?
Yes. Very good. Yes, there's a layer behind the emotion that is even less. There's a less and less and less until there isn't anything. And then there's nothing to know that has occurred. And there's nothing to know that has not occurred. There is no reference point as a personhood who is seeing, smelling, tasting. Seeing is just seeing. Smelling is just smelling. Thinking is just thinking. There's nothing, there's no elseness about it. It is empty of other. This is called non-dual Advaita. It's Advaita. Dvaita is duality. Is the negative part, but it's not two, nor is it one. But we don't take any position on it at all. But yes, you would, as you would go along, you may feel the emotion of things feeling personal. You may still feel like you've been harmed or been wronged, like Crystal says, which her book is full of that kind of sarcastic humor. But it will be seen more as unreal. You'll see that the person, the emotions themselves are intense. You can feel them, but they don't have any fundamental reality to them. It's very much instead of looking at a terrible thing happening in your life, which you really believe that this is happening, they're really doing this and they're wronging you. Instead, you're watching a movie, and it's Stephen King's Stand. Have you seen The Stand? It is full of intense illusions that seem very, very real in the movie. Or if you watch any kind of a movie is a fabrication of something. It's a pretend, even if it's Shakespeare. It's invented so that you can see more deeply into the nature of this world that we refer to as an illusion.
Bjorn Bowing, you mentioned the senses as you were responding to that question.
Yes.
So are the senses to be looked at next after beyond the emotion?
Well, they're all just the emotions are rising in that part of consciousness that doesn't have an obvious kind of sensor, doesn't have fingertips, doesn't have a nose, doesn't have eyes, ears, nose, but it's a similar area. The mind, the sixth consciousness, just receives thoughts. There's an illusion that you think things, and you don't. You don't think anything. Consciousness does. There's no thinker. There isn't anyone. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm very, very happy to disappoint you. Because if you see what this is, a suffering may still be there, it may still come and go because it's dependently arisen, but you're no longer taking anything personally. You no longer will have been wronged by anything because the whole right and wrong area has completely fallen apart. The picking and choosing of this and that, and even life and death comes apart. And you no longer identified as this being your life, your body. You're not concerned about if this goes back into the elements or not, fire, earth, air, and water. Why? Because you understand who you are. You know who you are. You don't need proof. You know who you are. You're a transcendent being, to use a fancy romantic kind of thing. If you're like anything at all that is experienced, that you can experience, it'd be more like light. But it's not even light. Light is still phenomena. It's beyond that. It's consciousness. All of this is arising in consciousness. Everything's showing up and wandering around and banging into each other and going away and taking things personally and making some kind of personhood about everything. We're all nobody. We aren't separate beings. We are separated. Consciousness is separated into, we might as well be the glomeruli and the kidneys, except some of us have blue shirts and some of us have red shirts. You can realize this. If you're interested, I can help you. Probably by badgering you. Go look at it. Go sit. Get your butt over to the wall. Sit down, hold still. Look at the wall. Sit down, hold still. Do it. Do it over and over and over again. Have a transcendental kind of stubbornness to do this. I wouldn't be here doing this if I hadn't been extremely stubborn about it. I didn't for years, many years, saw no progress over here at all. I just felt like it was just getting worse, if anything. But then it started to come apart, and it wasn't anything I did other than look at it. So maybe take another, yes.
Kabowing, some questions from YouTube. From Martine,
Martine in Latvia.
Yes. Does looking directly at self-pity with intention to see the nature of reality make self-pity less intense?
It could, but there's no guarantee. Because the causes and conditions that arise with Martine or with anyone, with Crystal, the intention to see that it needs to be there, but there's no guarantee. Can't do that because dependent origination is so very complicated. That's just a relative statement about something that if you looked at it ultimately, it's not even separate things. That's how complicated it is. That's the illusion. There's lots of little things. You can't sort it out if you go in and blame anything. That's why all dharmas, anything that happens is without blame, Martine. But the important thing is to look at it anyway.
Kabowing, question from Gina G. What's the best way to help someone else realize they are stuck in self-pity?
Mind your own business. Don't meddle with them. Listen to them, maybe even listen to them talk about their self-pity, but no particular reaction to them, especially no criticism. Not going to help. And if the person has no mind training at all, then they might just need to live their life in self-pity. They have no way of working with it. No teacher, no teaching, no spiritual path. If all they have is the mundane path, it's not that they couldn't talk to a therapist and who had their socks on the right feet that could help them a little bit with how to work with that conditionally. But when you work with something conditionally and structurally like that, you're covering up the ultimate situation, which needs to be understood. Otherwise, you pass out of this lifetime, you come right back with the same issue, the same grasping at relative truth, trying to squeeze some happiness out of samsara. You can't do that temporarily. If you're born into a right area, when I say right, into an area that's very supportive, like you're born in New York to the son or daughter of a millionaire, that might help you a little bit. But if you're born in the ghetto and both of your parents are addicted to crack, you might have a difficult life ahead of you.
Kabowing, question from Eric, and I'm not sure which one.
Yes.
Would not wallowing be picking ourselves up, or is that too active bowing?
You could use that image a little bit. Maybe, I think situationally, maybe with a person asking the question, that might be like your idea that you just distract yourself into something else. If there's a lot of awareness around what you're doing, then that seems appropriate. You're not going to just go in and increase that by wallowing in it. But you're also very aware that you're not looking at it. But you're also, in your situation, you're a strong meditator. When this person asks this question, I'm assuming they're doing some meditation, but I don't know how much. You need to do a lot. I'm not talking about 20 minutes a day or even an hour a day. More takes a lot. You've just spent countless lifetimes buying into believing in a relative world that you think you can fix or get to shape up or get your way or attain something. Probably not going to work. Robert.
What is a primary, Robert Bowing, what is a primary witness without any reference points?
It's just consciousness. Nothing will be happening there. You ask me a question, and then when we're done, then nothing happens over here. So not because I'm such a wonderful person, might be just the other way, because there isn't anybody here, just an old man. The only relative thing happening here is just an old man who's not particularly healthy, but not dead yet. But I'm not concerned with it. I'm not saying I'm going to just stop eating and stop sleeping. I'm going to go that direction with it, but I'm not really concerned about whether I wake up tomorrow or not. So there's no, the whole event area comes apart. The events are illusion. This is an illusion. Not real. There, intense, vivid, not real. Your hand moving, my hand moving, not real. This is an illusion. And we enjoy illusions. So watching someone dance is a wonderful illusion. Why would we enjoy watching someone who's very graceful dance, or watching someone who was able to like the Nula is, create shapes and so on, and patterns and images and so on. What is that? It's an illusion. Paushan is an artist, and he makes lots of paintings and so on. They're very enjoyable things to look at. So, but they're unreal. So it's just a way of working with the relative truth that allows us to dance with it a little bit rather than just go to war and fight with it more.
Robert Bowing, how does the discernment show up for that?
For what?
For no reference points?
There's not discernment. Discernment up to the point. Discerning that things are insubstantial and are not what they're cracked up to be. We slowly start to see it coming apart, but then the complete understanding of it is without anything. It's without reference point. There's just the seeing. There's no one seeing anything. And if it's complete, then you're not seeing. You might see another person who thinks they're somebody and operates out of passion, aggression, ignorance, hope, and fear, right and wrong. And if you're functioning as a teacher, you help them as much as they'll let you. Quite often they'll tell you they want help, and you can even tell them what to do, and they just won't do it. And then some people will do it, and some people will say they're going to do it. So it's all a relative situation. I can say more if you have more.
Robert Bowing, how do we find bearing in that?
You have to sit a lot. I'm not going to ask you how much you sit. You have to have, that's why we have a monastery. That's why people come here and practice. That's why we just ordained in the last couple of months, 2 more monks, both women, fully ordained monks who, in their own way, 2 different people altogether in their own way. One of them is, as Naisho is living up north because of her health condition. She can't, I would like her to be here, but she can't. But she still received a full ordination as a monk. Whereas Mozuku lives here. She's fully ordained as a monk. She lives in the monastery. And so, and in your situation, I would say, you don't have to be a monk. It's up to you. It's not required, but practice as much as you can. Tune in on Zoom as much as you can. Come here as much as you can. Just like Billy just showed up today, and I'm saying to Billy, come here, be part of this community. If this makes sense to you, if it doesn't, do something else. I mean, it's not a requirement. This is not for everyone. This is not like everyone should be doing this. Sit a lot, come here more. I see you once in a while. If you're serious about this, you're going to have to sit a lot. It's not a special thing. It's very simple. Sit down, hold still, and watch what continues to move that does not. Watch what you don't have any say-so over. That's a powerful experience, and it certainly took me years to see that there's no one doing any of this. And if that happens, then you're, for lack of a better word, you're liberated. You're not at the mercy of anything. You're certainly not at the mercy of passion, aggression, and ignorance, but you may be flooded with it, just like you are now, or maybe you're not. Maybe you managed to distract yourself. I don't know. Well,
Robert Bowing, so is it just in the I exist and this is it?
I didn't say that.
I did.
I know you did. But what do you want to know behind that kind of a question? What do you want to know?
Is Robert Bowing, is that what we sit in?
You may have to sit in that kind of desolation for a while, which is my word for what you just said. Just kind of desolation. Everything is meaningless. Nothing means. Everything is. What was your word for that? Apathy. Just apathetic about everything. Just don't stop. Just stay there. Don't get rid of the apathy. Have I ever told you to get rid of your apathy?
No.
Just be apathetic. Be the shit you're trying to get rid of, so you can get a good feeling, understanding, and get some clarity around what it is. Because if you fight with it, conceptually it may go away, but then you're caught in the conceptual thinking process, which most of the world is running itself ragged with. But you can actually do it with awareness. You can transcend this world and still be a human form wandering around bumping into stuff, or be a human form wandering around actually enjoying yourself. I enjoy myself quite a bit. And I also have difficulty with emotions come and go, but I'm not concerned with how I feel. I no longer get my understanding from how I feel or what I think. I don't believe my thoughts. I don't disbelieve them. And I certainly don't block them out. I don't have to do anything with that area. The boundary between this sitting meditation and your everyday activity, going to the kitchen, walking down the hallway, putting clothes in the dryer, and that they're not separate anymore. This doesn't mean that you have some kind of a feeling of being always aware of everything, some kind of magical bullshit. No, you're just not separate from anything. There no longer is never was a crime. There never was an event. There never was a past. There never was a future. These are illusions. And I'm not saying that because they're illusions, you push them away. I'm saying if you push them away, then they don't act like illusions and they want to come back, because if you're pushing on it, the illusory quality of that starts to get some muscles, because it's the very nature of relative truth that is believed in or disbelieved in or ignored. Those are the three. If you don't do any of that, consciousness only. You are everywhere you look, you don't see anything but yourself. And you don't see a person, you don't see Robert, and I don't see Sokuzan. I just, that very nature of identity is everywhere. You are this world. You are this, always. Not just this world, you are all. Just go out and look at the ground. Want to see a polarity, physical polarity, look at the ground. And then go out and look up in the sky, especially the night sky. Not separate, not two different things, nor are they the same. It's just, you've heard of the phrase blinding realization. It's blinding. What is it blinding you to? The relative world, because it's so incredibly brilliant. You can do that. Thank you. Thank you all for your attendance and for receiving these teachings. And Billy, come and see us. And the rest of you should come and see us too. Just find talk to Derek, find out where he gets his jets at.
Hi, my name is Sokuzan, and I'm one of Sokuzan's monks. Sokuzan so freely offers his love to us and his wisdom through these talks, and never asks us for anything in return. If you value what he does and what he is, and want them to continue, please visit our donate page at SokukoJi.org. Thank you.